out there, them, in the conversation. And that made me wonder if Star Wars was really to protect us as a shield from a missile coming from Russia or some other country, or is it to protect us maybe from aliens?
Yeah, I think I heard something about that. I don't remember it too well. I guess several people or presidents have said something like that.
Yeah, he wanted the government, to fund a shield around Earth to protect us against missiles or them from taking out our country.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me that the UFO thing has been on people's mind, including presidents' minds for many years. And the disclosure part, I don't think Iren is ever going to come out, because it would make the government look like, I hate to say it, a liar. And then if they came out and said, hey, we've been lying to the American public, there is UFOs, then who's going to trust the government from everything else they say? Maybe if something happens bad, now they can come out and say, hey, we just found out there is intelligent life out there and they don't like humans. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be hard to disclose, in my opinion. I mean, maybe somebody's going to. It would be hard to without some kind of cooperation with UFOs, though, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you disclose everything you could think of, and it might not convince anybody unless they have a UFO land and say hello or something.
Or one crash in the wrong place. But, I was talking again about this the other night with a guest. If a UFO did land, I know how this country or any other country is going to react, because we're not that civilized yet. We think we're civilized, but we're not. The first thing, if a UFO landed, what's going to happen. Like those old movies, B movies of the 50s and 60s. They're going to send out the military troops. They're going to bring out the tanks. They're going to bring out whatever, right? And they're all going to be facing at that UFO. And boy, if that ever happened, who knows what would happen?
Yeah, we're probably not ready for that much disclosure.
I don't know, but there's people out there that really think that disclosure is going to be happening. They're supposed to be smoking gun of documents. All this stuff is supposed to be circulating. But you know what? I've been in broadcasting, Iren, since 1976. And you know what? Every 10 years, it starts to resurface big time, because, it goes from ghost hunting, it goes to, Bigfoot, and it goes on to all kinds of creepy things. And then it goes back to UFOs. In the past year, the UFO thing has gotten really hot topic on all the radio shows, on the media. Even some of the networks are, talking occasionally about UFOs. So I don't know. I think people are going to be for a big letdown, because some of the stuff I see on disclosures is the same thing. It's been circulating for years.
Well, I think since people first heard of UFOs, they've been saying, we're going to disclose it, and nothing's ever happened so far.
Oh, you're so right. But they did disclose it, what happened, back in the 40s at Roswell. They did for a little while till they recanted it the next morning, but a weather balloon taking out thousands of feet of rocks and trees and landing against a big pile of huge, rocks and stuff like that. I don't think a weather balloon could even physically do that.
No. Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, the big brass is who decided to disclose it, and then they changed their mind and said, no, it didn't exist. So that came from the top. It wasn't just somebody, on the radio saying, well, that happened. It was the honchos that decided to disclose and then decided not to.
Well, they jumped the gun. They probably all of a sudden were all excited. Hey, we got, a UFO. Let's disclose it, and hit the news and all that stuff. And then they probably got their hands slapped, and people probably got transferred and demoted and everything over that. But, and all the weird stuff that the government supposedly done, like threaten people that were involved, that weren't in the military, that saw it. I mean, that makes me feel there's a lot of mistrust in the UFO community. You have a lot of trust, or lots of trust in the government.
Yeah. I imagine the government has better data than the civilian groups and everything, but you don't know whether the government knows really understands anything better than anybody else does.
Oh, come on. The government knows everything. You used to work for them.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think they knew everything.
Well, maybe they don't, but what they do is they make sure that whatever information comes out is disinformation. So, I mean, that's all I've heard for all these years of being in broadcasting is disinformation. For everything I hear that looks positive, there's 10 things come out negative afterwards to discredit whoever came out and said the positive thing.
Well, I was talking to this disinformation man once, and what he said is the way the government keeps people in tow is they give disinformation, but they sprinkle a little bit of right information in with it. And so people keep looking for those little gold bits in the mud.
Yeah, but how do you interpret those little gold nuggets in the mud over, what is being, fed as false information?
Well, that's how they keep towing people along.
I don't know. How do you think society would react, honestly, Irene, if they came out tomorrow and said UFOs exist, that they've been abducting people against their will, implanting people, doing cattle mutilation, and doing human mutilation across the world? How would you think the people would respond?
Well, I think people that have had something happen to them already think something like that. But the majority of people probably, I imagine some of them wouldn't believe it at all. But then a lot of people would be really nervous and scared.
Well, I would. I mean, also, the 411 book with the missing people in the national forest, that itself alone is, kind of scary because I don't think we have that many serial killers. I don't think that many people would fall off a cliff or get swept down a river or fall in some type of hole or mine shaft. Not that huge a number. So I'm just wondering if people are being abducted when they're out in the forest, and not just in the forest. Even people who are going from A to B in their car are saying to their wife, hey, I'm going to go to the store, and they're never seen again. And it's a lot of people in our country, let alone all the other countries that are vanishing. And it's been going on for years, and then I just can't understand it. It's scary.
Well, they keep better track of a lot of things like money and things than they do of people.
Oh, yeah, that's the scary part. I mean, there is so many people missing without a trace, nothing. It's just like they never existed. Now, people I've talked to claim that they've been abducted and returned. They all told me the same thing. They were abducted without their permission. They were examined without their permission. They were prodded. They had needles shoved in their eyeballs. They had, all kinds of weird things done. And, and then they are returned. But how about maybe the people they don't return? Maybe they went too far and the person passed on, or they totally, the same thing like, like the reports of how we sat there and dissected aliens, in Area 51. Maybe they're dissecting humans too, to see how we operate.
It could be. And another person and I were going to do some research on that, on missing children, but we just didn't get any place with it. I don't remember why. I think it's because they don't collect enough data or something to even begin to figure out what's going on.
That's the whole problem. They don't. The FBI, I remember listening, my friend had a talk show for many years, a very famous person. I remember he had an ex-FBI agent that served with the FBI for 20 years. And her job was basically investigating people who vanished, went missing. And, she said that they had a good rate of, finding a lot of them. But then there was a big percentage of them that was just They were never found. No trace, no nothing. And who knows how big a percentage that actually is.
Yeah. And I think it's so indefinite to collect the information because you don't know whether I doubt if too many people actually really want to disappear, but probably some of them do. And so it's hard to, especially somebody that doesn't have a lot of official papers or doesn't have a Social Security number or something like that. They could just disappear and nobody know.
Oh, yeah, but that's harder nowadays, because of the internet, everything, with the computer systems that the government has. 10, 15 years ago, you could actually hide very easy and go out and create a new Social Security number. Now, it's really hard because of the computers, the information that they store, your spending habits, what store you go to, your whole life. I mean, it's easy to trace somebody down. A lot easier now than ever.
Well, I don't know, like that killer that killed all those people and raped all these people in California. The only way they found him was by DNA, and he'd been active for quite a few years. And did a lot of crimes. I forget what his name was.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name, but he got caught because his son was in jail and had to give up his DNA, and that's all of a sudden they had a match.
And that Bolger criminal, he did the same thing. He just went to some other state and disappeared. So I guess you can do it.
Yeah, but it's not easy. If I wanted to go hide, tomorrow, I think it'd be really hard. Again, 20 years ago, I think if I wanted to go hide, I could create a new Social Security number. There was no such thing as computers like we have today. I mean, it was a lot easier. You could go out and start a new life, and eventually you might get caught, but I don't know. It's just scary that I got a funny feeling there's a lot of people being abducted and a lot of people are being returned, but I got a funny feeling a lot of people aren't. And that's what the scary part is.
Do you know anybody that disappeared?
I known a couple people in my lifetime that all of a sudden, I knew them really well and bam, they were gone and nobody could, find them. And I know that they were in a good marriage and they weren't having any problems.
I don't know anybody that did that, so that's pretty weird.
Well, of course, I've been in broadcasting for many years, off and on, so I have a large group of friends. But, a lot of things are going on. Timothy Cullen, he was, I think, number 12 or number 13 implant removal from Dr. Roger Lear. And after he got his implant removed, he started getting into cattle mutilation, investigating. And, I've had people come back, they say, the government does it just to, debunk, UFOs. But some of the stuff that when I had Timothy on my show, I think 3 or 4 times, talking even about cattle mutilation, when he went out and investigated, how could a cow in fresh snow with no footprints, no nothing, have all certain glands removed, precision cuts with by a laser to remove things. And then, it looks like the cow was, for example, dropped and his head got wedged into a mole hole. I mean, just weird things. And, that's the type of thing it concerns me about UFOs. And a lot of people think that these UFOs are out here to save mankind. I just don't buy that.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things that happen. I mean, I live on a farm, and once I was just out wandering around, and there was this fence that was right against the ground, and it's staples or whatever had it tight against the ground, and I was just wandering and looking through the fence, and I found this deer, and its head was on one side. I mean, it was dead, and it was just a skeleton, but the head was on one side, and its spine was attached, but the rest of it was on the other side, and this fence was right against the ground, and I wondered how on earth